passed right in front of us, just about right above eye's length.
I like to use the old peace sign, you know, stretch it out. But it was something like this. And as it passed, all we could really see was the left wing of the craft as it passed in front of us. That was how low it was as it passed. And as it started to pass in front of us, I put my hand up to where the nose of the craft was, and I took my other arm out to where the end of the wing was, and it was well over 30 inches. And I said to my wife at the time, I said, that's a mile long. It was like looking through water. And if you've ever seen that little wavy motion and so forth, that's what that's like. When you're looking to the north towards Phoenix proper, the lights of the city of Phoenix and Tempe and Scottsdale and all these here will form a gray background. And this was a black object coming through a gray background. We had no problem whatsoever seeing this vehicle. We knew it wasn't really ours because it was just too doggone big. As a matter of fact, profoundly massive is a better way to describe it. We don't really have words in our language to describe something that large. It was huge. People say, Mike, no, you saw a B-2 bomber. My response was, we could land all 40 of our B-2 bombers on the wing of that craft.
It's coming across the sky, and as it's moving, it's blocking and unblocking the stars. There is actually a shape.
When you look down the street on a hot day in Phoenix, above the street's like, it's really wavy, and you see everything kind of distorted, and that's what it looked like up inside the middle of the craft.
If you can imagine something the size of Camelback Mountain floating down Scottsdale Road, you have some idea of the intensity of this thing.
The object we saw, if we opened up a newspaper, you could not block out the object that we saw. It was gunmetal black. It wasn't shiny, it wasn't invisible, it was more of a dull bluish black color.
It was just gliding, and then it stopped, and then it, like, the sides retracted a little, and then it was gone.
Just went acceleration to deceleration. It was no noise the whole time.
And not a sound.
We looked at it for a couple seconds, and then I realized that I had my telescope out. So I pointed my telescope at it, and at that point I noticed that they were airplanes.
I did not see airplanes. I watched this thing come at me from great distance, and it took a long time for it even arrived. 30 miles an hour, that's about it. This thing didn't appear to fly, it appeared to float. We are not trying to be the FBI. You know, I'm trying to find out because I need to know.
I would gauge this object to be several football fields. I mean, like a mile, maybe more than a mile, maybe even 2 miles. It was huge.
What struck me was the sheer size of these lights. When it got directly over my head, and I mean, I'm talking dead center here, I was right underneath this thing. And I look up. It was like there was no filament in this thing. They appear to be in a canister. There was light swimming around in this shape or form. In between these lights, though, it did seem somewhat denser. It seemed darker, like there was a shape or form going on there that was holding these things together. What absolutely struck me as being eerie beyond belief, the immense size of this thing would have to be controlled by something that had a pretty strong engine just to sustain flight. There was not a buzz, there was not a hum, there was not a jet engine, there was not a prop engine, there was not a jet prop engine, there was absolutely no sound at all.
I guess I'm going to mention this because nobody is doing any investigation on it, and I'd just like to know anybody has any information from the city and if the city is checking into it. Apparently,
when I asked my fellow council members if anything was being done to investigate the matter, all I got was silence. It was as if I hadn't asked the question at all. They just ignored me and moved on to the next councilman.
People are starting to ask more questions. Thanks. Thank you. Councilman Siebert.
I was just going to give the number.
10 a.m.
A few weeks after the Phoenix Lights incident, a man named Richard Curtis called me at home to say that he had taken some amazing footage on professional equipment of this object, capturing actual structure. I asked Mr. Curtis to send a copy to me at my office so I could look at it. I planned to send it to Village Lab so that they could analyze it. Two men dressed in black suits, hats, and sunglasses came to Richard Curtis's door and asked him for the videotape. Mr. Curtis told me he was confused by this unexpected visit. He asked them if they were from my office, and they said yes, so he gave them the tape. But before they left, they asked Mr. Curtis if he had made any copies of his videotape. He told them he hadn't, and they said they'd be more than happy to do it for him. According to Mr. Curtis and two other witnesses, the men took the tape, got into a black sedan with dark tinted windows, and left.
Now I'll ask Officer Stein and his colleagues to escort the accused into the room so that we may all look upon the guilty party. Don't get him too close to me, please. This just goes to show that you guys are entirely too serious.